The Nintendo Switch, one of the greatest video game consoles of all time, certainly the best handheld of all time. This is a subjective opinion, but joycons, conceptually, great idea. You can pop them off, use them as two separate controllers, but functionally, they're not ideal. They're designed for like tiny hands, and worst of all, probably the worst analog stick ever. Well, maybe with the exception of the Nintendo 64. Nintendo holds 2 of those records. So let's look real quick at some alternatives. The Nitrodeck by Cracked, you guys see me talk about this all the time, and the Wizard by NYXI. So you want to buy one, but which one is better? So over on my Discord, I have a channel in there for video recommendations, and my friend Irish Cross has requested that I compare and contrast these two controllers because I have talked about them quite a bit and I've given away both on my channel. So while we set up for tonight's live stream, I'm going to give you my opinion. First and foremost, I am affiliated with both of these companies. I'm more so affiliated with Cracked and the Nitrodeck than I am with NYXI and the Wizard or any of their other products. But just a disclaimer, I am affiliated. In fact, if you like either one of these controllers, you can find affiliate links in my link tree, which is in my bio. And for starters, I want to say that both of these companies make fantastic controllers. When Irish Cross asked me to do a comparison video on the two, I actually kind of slept on it for a little while. I really didn't want to do it because I do have a really good relationship with Jack and the guys over at Cracked. And the folks over at NYXI have been really nice to me as well. So if you're here to watch me bash one of these, it's not going to happen because they are both fantastic. Plus, that's just also not my style. Even if I did hate one, I wouldn't make a video about it. Be nice, people. So let's start with the NYXI Wizard. The Wizard is a game controller by NYXI that was designed after the greatest video game controller of all time, the Nintendo Wavebird, which was not only the greatest design controller of all time, but it was the first great wireless controller ever. You can challenge me on that. So the Wizard is designed almost identical to the Wavebird, which is fantastic for a number of reasons. First off, you already know it's gonna feel great in the hands. And some of the issues that the Wavebird did have, the Wizard fixed. One of those being the thumbstick nub. I don't know why Nintendo chose to do a weird nub here instead of an actual thumbstick, but they did. And NYXI fixed that with the Wizard. It's 2 full thumbsticks. Hall effect thumbsticks, I might add. The other thing that is very exclusive to the Nintendo Wavebird was the way the thumbstick rolled. If you look in there, it was actually a hexagonal shape. I think it was a hexagon, right? Pretty sure it was a hexagon. Now, what that means is when you rolled the controller around, it rolled in eighths. It's very hard to say, eighths. The NYXI controller, just like the Wavebird, has that functionality. But in case you don't like that, you can pop this right off and put a standard round, smooth one in there, which I thought was a really nice touch. There's nothing cooler than a modular controller. So I really enjoy that about the Wizard. The obvious other thing that I like about the Wizard is, yeah, it comes with this centerpiece, so you can use it as a Pro controller, and if you're like me and you use your Switch in handheld mode like 99.9% of the time, it acts as a set of really awesome Joy-Cons. The Wizard does feel really, really good in the hands. One of the things I don't like so much about the Wizard is the turbo functionality. Down here at the bottom, it has these turbo buttons, which allows you to assign turbos to any of the buttons on the joypad. And I hit that thing and activate it all the time. And for the life of me, I can never remember how to reset the damn thing. Actually, there you go. See how one of those is blue and one of them is white? That means that turbo is activated on one of the buttons on this side, probably one of the triggers. Drives me nuts. And of course, the Wizard does have back bumpers as well if you're into that sort of thing. The other thing I do like more about the Wavebird than the Wizard is the bumpers. The bumpers are just switches, basically like your normal, like a shoulder button would be. And if you remember, the Wavebird actually had a real trigger. It's one thing that's, it's a little bit different, but I think that's a preference thing for me. Like I said, you can disconnect these things and use them as like a Pro controller with this little centerpiece. The battery life on this thing is great, but like every other third-party Nintendo controller, there is no amiibo reader on either of these. Take that as you will. You're probably not going to find that on just about anything. All in all, very solid controller. I like this controller a lot. They won my heart over before I even held them in my hands because it's designed after the Wavebird. Let's talk about the controller that I use the most. And that is the Nitrodeck by Cracked. Now the Nitrodeck actually comes in two different flavors. You have the standard Nitrodeck and you have the Nitrodeck Plus. There's a few differences between the two of them. We're not going to get into that here in this video, but the major difference and the reason why I use the Plus is symmetrical thumbsticks. I play a lot of shooters, and on a controller like this, I prefer to have my controller layout symmetrical, and I don't want my thumbstick down here. It was just too hard to get my finger down here and then back up there. This layout just feels more comfortable to me, and I think that's just a totally subjective thing because my kids actually like using the original Nitrodeck more that has the asymmetrical layout. So take that as you will. Now, when it comes to functionality on the Nitrodeck, here's something the Nitrodeck has that just about nobody, including the NYXI Wizard, has. And that is docking functionality. So if you plug this little dongle into the output on the back of the unit, you can plug this right into your TV and it acts as a switch dock. So if you travel a lot, or you have multiple kids in the house that fight over the TV and they're moving around all the time, instead of moving the dock all over the place, you can just buy a Nitrodeck Plus and use this feature. Now, that is a feature of the Nitrodeck Plus only. The standard Nitrodeck does not have that feature, so keep that in mind as well. And just like the Wizard, the back of the Nitrodeck does have back buttons. This time, it's 4 back buttons. To be totally honest with you, I don't really use them that often. On most of the controllers that I have that do have back buttons, I don't use them. I find my fingers not in the right position to utilize that, and my brain just doesn't work that way. The controllers, traditional controllers have never had those. I don't know, I never really bother with them. The other thing that the Nitrodeck Plus has are these side bumper buttons, which in theory is a really cool idea, but I find myself hitting them on accident more than anything. Probably a subjective thing. I'm sure for some people it would really come in handy to have whatever you assign. They're assignable, so whatever you assign to that, bumper over there. I just find myself hitting them on accident a lot, especially when I am like removing a hand from the switch and reaching for something, and I have to hold the switch in place. I usually put my thumb right here, and boom, I hit that button every single time. So I find myself having to touch my screen, which I hate doing, or put my finger on the analog stick, which I don't like doing as well. So I don't know, not really a feature that I care about one way or the other. You might like it. And the other thing too, Hall effect thumbsticks. So you're never gonna get any stick drift with either of these. I will say the one feature that absolutely sold me on the Nitrodeck to begin with was the collectability of the Nitrodeck. Striker keyboard made by NYXI. I do love their keyboard. It's a really, really cool keyboard. GameCube themed. Watch my video if you haven't seen that one yet. But collectability on the Nitrodeck is really cool. So what they've done is they've built these things with the collector, this guy, in mind. They always have tons of limited drops. One of my favorite limited drops was the original clear cases they did with limited run. If I wasn't shooting this with my phone right now, I would show you how this works. But when you put your phone up to it and you have the Cracked app open, it'll scan this and it will give you all the information about this specific Nitrodeck. It will tell you what number off the factory line it was. It adds all of that into your collection status. While at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean anything, for a collector who loves numbers and stuff like that, I think it's a really, really cool feature. And it stores all of that stuff in the app. Now, the other cool thing I love about the Nitrodeck is it gets firmware updates pretty frequently. They're constantly tweaking, adjusting, and fixing things. And you do that with the app. You bring your phone close to it, tap it, and in the app, you can make all your adjustments. You can adjust your trigger zones, your dead zones. You can change your button layout. You can assign these little side bumpers and back keys. All of that stuff is there as well. I should mention it does have a kickstand. So if that's your jam, it's got one. Personally, I almost never use a kickstand. It does have an input and an output for super easy charging, and the output would be if you want to use it as a dock or if you want to use it as a controller while it's docked. You can do that as well. Another thing I really like about the Nitrodeck is they really kind of stuck with the theme of the Nintendo Switch. I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but when the Switch first got announced, one of the biggest things was this. You remember that? It still is part of their marketing, but the click of the controllers coming on and off, even when you put your controller on, when your Switch is powered up, you hear that. It's really cool. And I don't know if this was on purpose. I'm sure it was part of the design, but the Nitrodeck has done the same thing. When you slide the Nitrodeck into this thing, it makes a very satisfying click sound. It's a very good click. And it doesn't come out. It's locked in. It's got this little spring-loaded key back here that releases it, which has kind of been redesigned on the Nitrodeck Plus for the better. But yeah, very satisfying click, I will say. Okay, so let's get down to the real question. Do I play on a NYXI Wizard or do I play on a cracked Nitrodeck? And the answer to that is, drum roll please, I actually play on them both. Okay, now if I had to break it down by percentages, I play on the Nitrodeck more. I do play on the Nitrodeck more. This is what I use when I travel around because I love the bag that Cracked has for the Nitrodeck. I'm a sucker for bags. Now, NYXI does also have a hard case that you can fit your entire setup in. But, you know, as you can see, it's kind of big. You know what I mean? Like soft case that you could throw over your shoulder. I don't know, hard case. I guess in reality they're about the same size, but this just seems so much bigger. When I put this in my backpack, it takes up a lot of space. When I put this in my backpack, it kind of, you know, folds down. I don't know. Again, subject to opinion. So when do I use my Nitrodeck and when do I use my Wizard? This is where we really start to split hairs. The biggest difference between the two controllers is the button layout. Now, I told you earlier that I like my Nitrodeck to have symmetrical thumbsticks, but what's up? The Wizard does not have symmetrical thumbsticks. Well, that's because the grip on the Wizard is drastically different than the grip on the Nitrodeck. So on a controller like this, I actually do prefer asymmetrical layout. For instance, my preferred controller of choice on PC and Xbox is the PDP BFG, and those are asymmetrical as well, even though these are modular and you can flip that around. That's for another video though. This has your traditional button layout of a Switch. You got A, B, Y, and X. All right there, all where your brain remembers it. The Wizard shakes it up a little bit because the Wizard has the same button layout as a GameCube Wavebird, which means A, B, X, Y. Quite a bit of difference. On the Wizard, the Y is the top button. On the Nitrodeck, the X is the top button, which is pretty traditional when it comes to a Nintendo controller. So when I first got the Wizard, it was right about the time they had relaunched Metroid Prime for the Nintendo Switch, that remaster. That was really good, which was perfect. I played that game on this controller. So when I played that game on my Switch, my brain knew where everything was. Like, this controller was absolutely perfect. But when it came time to playing some more Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, or even just getting a couple quick matches of Fortnite in, this can be very confusing to your brain, especially when you're used to X being the top button, and in this case, Y is the top button. So really, that's how I divide the two of these, and that's sort of how I divide my time up between the two of these. I recently went back to Super Mario 3D All-Stars, I think is what it was called. You know, the 3-pack of Mario bangers that came out for the Switch a couple years ago. I had originally never played Mario Sunshine, mostly because the original game didn't allow you to invert the thumbstick, which was wild to me, but I play inverted, and so it totally broke my brain, couldn't play the game. I went back and played it now because they added that option, because, you know, they've wised up, and I played it on this controller. It was perfect. It was like I was experiencing it for the first time. But when I do play stuff like Tears of the Kingdom, I usually play it on my Nitrodeck. And even when I play shooters, I usually play them on my Nitrodeck. So I would say that there's a higher percentage of the time when I'm playing on the Nitrodeck than there is when I'm playing on the Wizard. If it didn't break my brain so much to play some of the more modern games with this button layout, the old school GameCube button layout, I probably would play on this thing more, because this is awesome. Cracked, if you are watching this video for some reason, how about a controller that, you know, has a little more grip? That's kind of my only gripe with the Nitrodeck, is that we don't have a lot of space here. And I still feel like, even though the thumbsticks are symmetrical, they could come up some. Because for me, again, subjective, but for me, bringing my thumb all the way down to the B button, this is not a comfortable situation for me. And so I find myself going, well, I don't know, maybe I like the asymmetrical layout of the other one, but then in that case, the thumbstick's way down here, and I'm doing this thing, and it's just not comfortable. I feel like there are ways to maybe redesign these areas of the controller. It may result in a bigger controller, but if you could do some kind of handle like this, maybe like a Tofer.A limited edition, ask the people watching this video. I'm sure you would sell like probably at least 20 of them, maybe 30,000. I don't know. Call me. Because when you look at stuff like the Steam Deck has asymmetrical controllers, but you see how much space is between the edge of the screen and the edge of the console versus the edge of the screen and the edge of the console, and how far in that puts your thumbsticks. The beauty of what the Steam Deck did was it put the D-pad and the buttons right next to the thumbstick. Not very many game controllers do this, and I think this is by far the best option, because you don't have to go down here. You just go straight to the side. I really like that. I think that's awesome. As far as price, both of these things retail, I think, for right around the same. I haven't looked as of today, but the Nitrodeck, depending on which one you get, if you get the Classic, I think sometimes those things are on sale for like 40 bucks, $39.99. And the Plus is 80 bucks maybe. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. And then the Wizard, I think, is right around the $60 mark. $59.99 sounds about right. I probably should have done a little more research on the pricing before I did this video, but it's been a very long time since I had purchased these, which I did actually buy these. I have started working with these companies since then, but I did purchase these. And if you want to check out either one of these controllers, you could hit my link tree. It has my affiliate links in there. And if you want to check out this awesome retro-inspired keyboard by NYXI, check it out. the dot matrix screen. I made it say my name. I thought that was pretty cool. If you want to check this out, you should check out this video right here where I review this product. And if you like videos like this or you have suggestions, you should follow along, subscribe right here, and hit the comments. Let me know what you would like to see next. Irish Cross, I hope that answers your question. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a live stream to prepare for. I can't wait to get into some more Dead Rising Remaster. It's that time of year. Until then, enjoy the journey.